The windshield wipers fought against the heavy rain, moving back and forth as fast as they could. Jin Kim sat straight in his truck's driver's seat, his hands tight on the steering wheel. His eyes stayed fixed on the road ahead, watching for any danger through the wall of water coming down from the dark sky. Just 3 more hours to Spokane, he said to himself, trying to stay calm. The clock on his dashboard showed 11:43 p.m. The rain had started 2 hours ago, but in the last 30 minutes, it had gotten much worse. Jin had been driving trucks for 15 years, ever since he left his job as an emergency worker. At 45 years old, he had seen all kinds of bad weather, but tonight felt different. The storm was stronger than any he could remember. Lightning flashed across the sky, lighting up the tall pine trees that lined both sides of the mountain road. Jin counted slowly after each flash, waiting for the thunder. 1, 2, 3, boom. The sound shook his whole truck. "The storm's getting closer," he muttered, slowing down even more. He was now driving at only 20 miles per hour, but even that felt too fast. The wind pushed against his truck, trying to force it toward the edge of the road. On his right side was a steep cliff that dropped hundreds of feet into darkness. Jin reached for his coffee cup, his free hand finding it without looking. The coffee was cold now, but he didn't care. He needed to stay awake and alert. His truck carried farming supplies, seeds, fertilizer, and new parts for farming machines. The load wasn't dangerous, but in weather like this, any cargo could become deadly if the truck crashed. Another flash of lightning lit up the sky, but this time it was different. Instead of the usual white-blue color, the light was bright purple. Jin blinked in surprise. What in the world? Before he could finish his thought, something huge slammed into the right side of his trailer. The impact was so strong that his truck skidded sideways, its tires screaming against the wet road. Jin's training kicked in. He turned into the skid, fighting to keep the truck from going over the cliff. Come on, he shouted, his muscles straining as he wrestled with the steering wheel. The truck spun once, twice, before Jin managed to bring it to a stop. The engine stalled, and suddenly everything was quiet except for the sound of rain hitting metal. Jin sat still for a moment, his heart beating fast in his chest. He was alive. Somehow he had kept the truck on the road. But what had hit him? In his side mirror, he could see something giving off a faint purple glow through the rain. He grabbed his heavy-duty flashlight from under the seat and his rain jacket from behind it. "Please don't be a crashed car," he said quietly as he opened his door. The wind almost pulled it out of his hand as he stepped down onto the wet road. Walking carefully along his trailer, Jin swept his flashlight beam back and forth. What he saw made him stop in his tracks. There, stuck in the side of his trailer, was what looked like a small airplane, but it wasn't like any airplane he had ever seen. It was smooth and silver, with no visible wings or windows. The whole thing glowed slightly, giving off the purple light he had seen. As Jin stood there in the rain, a part of the silver surface seemed to melt away, creating an opening. He took a step back, raising his flashlight. A figure appeared in the opening. Tall and slender, with silvery skin that seemed to shine in the beam of his light. The figure moved carefully, almost gracefully, despite the heavy rain and wind. "Are you okay?" Jin called out, having to shout over the storm. "Are you hurt?" The figure turned toward him, and Jin saw that it looked almost human, except for its silvery skin and unusually large, dark eyes. It was wearing something that looked like a tight-fitting spacesuit, but made of a material that seemed to flow like water. "I am functioning," the figure said in perfect English, though the voice had a strange musical quality to it. "But my ship's systems are damaged. Your planet's magnetic storm interfered with my navigation." Jin lowered his flashlight slightly, trying to process what he was seeing and hearing. The figure, clearly not human, took a step toward him and stumbled. Without thinking, Jin moved forward to help, catching the stranger's arm. The skin felt smooth and cool like polished metal, but it was soft and alive. "My name is Bomi," the alien said, steadying herself against him. "I apologize for damaging your vehicle. Earth's gravity is stronger than I expected." Another lightning bolt lit up the sky, followed immediately by thunder that seemed to shake the mountain itself. Bomi flinched, her large eyes growing even wider. "We need to get out of this weather," He-Jin said, making a quick decision. He had spent years helping people in emergencies, and right now, human or not, someone needed his help. "My truck's cabin is dry and safe. Can you walk?" "I believe so," Bomi said, taking careful steps. "Your atmosphere is very energetic. We don't have storms like this where I come from." He-Jin helped her toward the front of the truck, noticing how she struggled against the wind and rain. Whatever world she came from, it clearly wasn't anything like Earth. As they reached the passenger door, another blast of wind hit them, almost knocking Bomi off her feet. "Almost there," He-Jin encouraged, opening the door and helping her climb up into the cabin. Once inside, he closed the door and quickly went around to the driver's side, getting in himself. Water dripped from both of them onto the seats. In the cabin's light, he could see Bomi more clearly. Her face was elegant but alien, with no nose and only slight indentations where ears would be on a human. Her eyes were huge and completely black, but somehow managed to convey curiosity as she looked around the truck's interior. "Thank you," she said, her voice clearer now that they were out of the storm. "I've never experienced weather this intense. How do you survive in such conditions?" He-Jin reached for his emergency kit under the seat, pulling out a blanket. He handed it to her, noticing how she examined it carefully before wrapping it around herself. "We adapt," he said simply. "Been doing it our whole history." He paused, still trying to fully accept that he was talking to an actual alien. "Want to tell me what brought you to Earth in the middle of the worst storm this year?" Outside, the wind howled and rain pounded against the truck, but inside the cabin, two very different beings began to talk, neither quite believing the strange twist of fate that had brought them together on this stormy night. Inside the truck's warm cabin, Bomi adjusted the blanket around her shoulders. Her silvery skin caught the light from the dashboard, creating soft reflections. He-Jin noticed that she seemed to be shivering, even though the heating was on. "Is the temperature uncomfortable for you?" he asked, reaching for the heater controls. "No, it's not the cold," Bomi explained, her musical voice filled with wonder. "It's the movement. The air here is always moving. Even inside this vehicle, I can feel tiny vibrations from your world's atmosphere." She paused, looking out at the rain. "On my world, we control everything about our environment. The air is always still. The temperature never changes. There are no storms." He-Jin thought about that for a moment. "Sounds boring," he said finally, earning a surprised look from his alien guest. "Boring." Bomi turned to face him fully. "We have eliminated all environmental dangers. Our cities float in perfectly controlled bubbles. Our weather follows exact patterns that we set. How can that be boring?" A loud crack of thunder made her jump again. He-Jin smiled kindly. "Because you never get moments like this. Never feel your heart beat faster because of a storm. Never know the joy of sunshine after rain." Bomi's large black eyes studied him carefully. She pulled out a small device from a pocket in her suit. It looked like a smooth silver egg. When she touched it, it lit up with soft purple light. "May I scan you?" she asked. "I'm a xenobiologist. I study life on other worlds. Your responses are unexpected." He-Jin shrugged. "Sure, as long as it won't hurt." "It's completely safe," Bomi assured him. She held up the device, and a gentle purple beam passed over He-Jin's face and chest. The device made a soft humming sound. "Fascinating," she whispered, looking at symbols that appeared in the air above the device. "Your body is constantly adapting to changes in your environment. Your temperature, your heart rate, your breathing. They all adjust automatically. And your cellular structure. She stopped, looking at him with what seemed like amazement. Your very cells can repair damage from environmental stress. That's just being human, He-Jin said. He reached into a compartment and pulled out a thermos. Want some coffee? It's cold now, but still good. Bomi stared at the thermos. You ingest substances at different temperatures, voluntarily. He-Jin laughed. Hot coffee is better, but sometimes you take what you can get. He poured some into the cup and offered it to her. Want to try? Bomi took the cup carefully, examining it from all angles before taking a tiny sip. Her eyes widened. This is intense. The temperature, the taste, the chemical compounds. She took another sip. We process all our nutrients through perfectly balanced feeding tubes. This is so primitive. She said the last word with unexpected delight. That's one way to put it, He-Jin said, drinking from the thermos. So, want to tell me why you're really here? Can't be just to study our weather. Bomi set down the coffee cup carefully. I'm part of a research team. We've been observing Earth from orbit for several months. My people, she hesitated. We've become concerned about how quickly your species is advancing. You still live with all this chaos, storms, earthquakes, changing seasons, yet you're beginning to reach for the stars. And that worries you? He-Jin asked, keeping his voice calm despite the revelation that aliens had been watching Earth. It confused us, Bomi corrected. Most species we've encountered either destroy themselves trying to control their environment completely, or never advance beyond basic survival. Humanity is different. You build great cities but still leave wild spaces. You have the power to level mountains but choose to climb them instead. You could live in climate-controlled bubbles like my people, but most of you prefer to experience your world's natural cycles. Another lightning bolt lit up the sky, closer this time. The truck shook with thunder, but Bomi didn't flinch as much as before. I was sent to study your biology, she continued, to understand how you survive these conditions. But I'm beginning to think we've been asking the wrong questions. It's not about survival, is it? It's about something else. He-Jin nodded slowly. Life isn't just about being safe. It's about feeling, experiencing, growing. Sometimes that means facing storms. He looked out at the rain. Speaking of which, we should check your ship. That's a pretty bad spot for it to be stuck. The ship's repair systems are working, Bomi said, touching another device on her suit. But it will take several hours. The magnetic storm is interfering with the process. She looked worried for the first time. I should have waited for better conditions, but I was eager to get closer readings. Your storms are usually localized and brief. I didn't expect. She gestured at the raging weather outside. Welcome to Earth, He-Jin said with a smile. Lesson 1. Expect the unexpected. Bomi's expression changed slightly. He-Jin was starting to recognize what might be a smile on her alien features. The environmental controls in my suit are struggling to compensate. How do you handle such rapid changes? We don't try to fight them all, He-Jin explained. Look at this truck. It's heavy enough to stay on the road in strong winds, but it can still sway a little. If it was completely rigid, it would break. Same with us. We bend, we adapt, but we don't break. Your species has achieved something remarkable, Bomi said softly. You've advanced technologically without losing your connection to your world's natural forces. She looked down at her scanning device again. My preliminary readings suggest that your cellular adaptability is far superior to ours. We've lost much of that through generations of living in perfectly controlled environments. He-Jin was about to respond when a new sound cut through the storm. A deep rumbling, different from thunder. He looked up through the windshield at the dark mountainside above them. That's not good, he said, suddenly alert. The rain's been going on for hours. The ground might be getting unstable. He started the truck's engine. We need to move. Now. What's happening? Bomi asked, sensing his concern. Possible landslide, Ho Jin explained quickly, turning on the headlights. Your ship is stuck in my trailer. If we stay here, the rumbling grew louder. Hold on tight. This is going to be another Earth lesson you weren't expecting. As if to emphasize his words, rocks began falling onto the road ahead of them, and the mountain above made a sound like it was tearing itself apart. In the mirror, Ho Jin could see more rocks falling behind them. They were trapped between two potential slides, with an alien spacecraft stuck in the trailer and a cliff on one side. Still think perfectly controlled environments are better? He asked, his hands tight on the wheel as he assessed their options. Bomi's only response was to grip her seat tighter, her large eyes reflecting the lightning that continued to flash across the sky. Rocks continued to fall on both sides of the truck. Ho Jin quickly checked all his mirrors, his mind racing through possible escape routes. His years of emergency response training helped him stay calm as he formed a plan. There's an emergency bunker about half a mile ahead, he told Bomi. It's used by road maintenance crews during bad weather. We need to get there. He looked at the falling rocks. But we can't drive through that. What about my ship? Bomi asked, watching as more rocks tumbled down the mountainside. Your repair systems are still working, right? When she nodded, Ho Jin continued. Then we let them finish. The ship is stuck tight in the trailer. It should be okay. But we need to move. Now. A massive boulder crashed onto the road behind them, making the decision final. Ho Jin grabbed his emergency backpack from behind his seat. We're going to have to walk. Can you handle Earth's gravity for that long? Bomi stood up in the cabin, swaying slightly. I will adapt, she said, making Ho Jin smile at her choice of words. But how do we walk through this storm? Very carefully, Ho Jin answered. He pulled out 2 emergency rain ponchos from his pack. Put this on over your suit. It's not high-tech, but it works. Bomi studied the simple plastic poncho with curiosity before putting it on. Ho Jin helped her adjust it properly, noticing how her hands trembled slightly from the effort of standing in Earth's gravity. Stay close to me, he instructed. Step where I step. The road isn't stable anymore. He checked his flashlight one more time. Ready? No, Bomi answered honestly. But I understand we have no choice. They stepped out into the storm together. The wind hit them immediately, almost knocking Bomi over. Ho Jin caught her arm, helping her stay upright. The rain was so heavy it was hard to see more than a few feet ahead. Small steps. Ho Jin shouted over the wind. Keep your body low. He demonstrated the walking technique, and Bomi tried to copy his movements. They made slow progress along the road, staying close to the mountainside rather than the cliff edge. Every few steps, more rocks would fall nearby, forcing them to stop and wait. The lightning continued to flash, but now it helped them by lighting up their path. How? Bomi had to catch her breath. How do humans do this all the time? We don't do this all the time, Ho Jin said, helping her over a fallen tree branch. But we know how to when we need to. That's the key, being ready for anything. Suddenly, the ground under their feet shifted. Ho Jin reacted instantly, pulling Bomi backward as a section of the road crumbled away into the darkness below. Are you okay? He asked, holding her steady. Bomi's eyes were wide, but her voice was steady. Yes. That was quick thinking. That's another Earth lesson, Ho Jin said, looking for a safe path around the new gap in the road. The ground isn't always solid. You have to be ready to move at any moment. They found a narrow path around the broken section of road. Bomi was getting better at walking in Earth's gravity, though she still needed help on the uneven ground. My people would consider this suicidal, she said as they carefully made their way forward, walking through a storm on unstable ground with minimal protection. Sometimes the risky path is the safest path, Ho Jin replied. Staying with the truck was more dangerous than moving. A bright flash of lightning showed them something ahead, a solid concrete structure built into the mountainside. The bunker, Ho Jin pointed. We're almost there. But the mountain had one more challenge for them. A loud crack split the air, different from thunder. He-Jin looked up to see a large section of the slope above them starting to move. "Run," he shouted, grabbing Bomi's hand. "Don't look back, just run." They ran through the rain and wind, their feet splashing through puddles. Bomi stumbled several times, but He-Jin kept her upright and moving. Behind them, they could hear the horrible sound of trees snapping as the landslide gained speed. The bunker door seemed to take forever to reach. When they finally got there, He-Jin yanked it open and pulled Bomi inside. He slammed the door shut just as the sound of rushing earth and rocks roared past outside. They stood in the darkness, breathing hard, until He-Jin found the bunker's light switch. The fluorescent lights flickered on, revealing a simple room with emergency supplies, some chairs, and a radio. Bomi slowly sank into one of the chairs, her silvery skin looking slightly darker than before. She paused, searching for words. That was terrifying and amazing. I've never experienced anything like it. He-Jin checked the radio, but the storm was blocking all signals. "Welcome to Earth," he said with a small smile, "where every day can bring something new. I'm beginning to understand why your species is so adaptable," Bomi said, still catching her breath. "You don't just survive these conditions, you learn from them. Every challenge teaches you something new." He-Jin found some emergency water bottles and offered one to Bomi. She studied it curiously before figuring out how to open it. "Even this," she said, holding up the bottle. "Simple technology, but perfect for its purpose. My people would have tried to create a complex water processing unit instead." "Sometimes simple is better," He-Jin agreed. He sat down across from her. "How's your ship doing?" Bomi checked the device on her suit. "The repair systems are still working. They should be finished in a few hours." She looked at He-Jin with her large dark eyes. "Thank you for helping me survive this, for teaching me." "Teaching you? I was just trying to keep us alive." "Exactly," Bomi said. "Every moment since I crashed has been a lesson. About Earth, about humans, about adaptation." She stood up and walked to a small window in the bunker wall, watching the rain outside. "I came here to study your biology, but I'm learning something much more important." "What's that?" He-Jin asked, joining her at the window. "That true advancement isn't about controlling everything. It's about learning to dance with chaos, to bend without breaking." She touched the window glass. "My people have forgotten that. We've trapped ourselves in our perfect bubbles, and we're slowly losing our ability to adapt." Thunder rumbled outside, but this time Bomi didn't flinch. Instead, she seemed to be listening to it with new interest. "When I report back," she said quietly, "I'm going to recommend something that's never been done before. I'm going to suggest that some of our young scientists come to Earth, not just to study humans, but to learn from them, to remember what it means to face challenges and grow stronger from them." He-Jin smiled. "Sounds like a good plan, but maybe wait until after the storm season." Bomi made that expression that He-Jin now recognized as her version of a smile. "Oh no," she said, "the storms are exactly what we need to experience. After all, I learned more in one night of Earth's chaos than in years of controlled studies." Outside, the storm continued to rage, but inside the bunker, two very different beings had found a common understanding that life's greatest lessons often come from its biggest challenges. As the night slowly turned to morning, the storm began to calm. He-Jin and Bomi sat in the bunker, sharing stories about their very different worlds. The emergency lights cast a warm glow as they talked, making the simple concrete room feel almost cozy. "So your cities actually float in the air?" He-Jin asked, opening another water bottle. Over the past few hours, he had noticed that Bomi was drinking more water than expected. Her body was working hard to handle Earth's gravity. "Yes, but not like your aircraft," Bomi explained. She had become much better at speaking while tired, another adaptation she had made during the night. Our cities are in giant spheres that hover using magnetic fields. Everything inside is perfect. The temperature, the air pressure, even the amount of light. Sounds like living in a bubble. He-Jin said. He walked to the window again. The rain had become gentle now, and the first light of dawn was starting to show through the clouds. Look at that. Bomi joined him at the window. The morning light painted the wet world in soft colors. Water droplets on the window sparkled like tiny stars. In the distance, they could see where the landslide had changed the shape of the mountain. It's beautiful, Bomi whispered. Even after all the destruction, or maybe because of it, it's beautiful. She touched the window glass. We don't have anything like this at home. No unexpected beauty. No surprises. He-Jin nodded. That's what I meant about it being boring. Perfect isn't always better. Bomi's device made a soft chiming sound. She checked it quickly. My ship's repairs are complete, she said. And the storm has weakened enough for safe flight. She looked at He-Jin. But before I leave, I want to show you something. She took out her scanning device and pointed it at the window. A hologram appeared in the air between them, showing two DNA structures side by side. This is fascinating, she said, her voice excited. The one on the left is a standard human DNA sample from our database. The one on the right is yours. She pointed to small differences between them. Your DNA shows signs of recent adaptation, changes that happened during your lifetime. Your cells are actually learning and evolving as you face new challenges. Is that unusual? He-Jin asked, looking at the floating images. Very. Most species either stay the same or change very slowly over many generations. But humans, she shook her head in wonder. You can adapt within your own lifetime. Every challenge you face makes you stronger, more resilient. My people lost this ability long ago, when we started living in our perfect environments. The sun rose higher, sending bright beams through the window. The hologram sparkled in the morning light. We thought we were making ourselves better by removing all challenges, Bomi continued. But look at this. She touched her device, and the hologram changed to show a cellular structure. These are my cells after just one night on Earth. They're already showing tiny changes, trying to adapt to your gravity and atmosphere. I didn't think this was possible for my species anymore. He-Jin smiled. Looks like humans aren't the only ones who can adapt. No, we're not, Bomi agreed. We just forgot how. She turned off the hologram and looked out at the new day. That's what I'm going to tell my people. We didn't evolve to live in perfect bubbles. No species did. We need challenges to grow stronger. A sound from outside caught their attention. Rescue vehicles approaching on the road. The storm had passed enough for help to arrive. They'll want to know what happened to your truck, Bomi said. What will you tell them? The truth, He-Jin said simply. That I helped someone in trouble during the storm. The rest. He smiled. The rest is just details. Bomi nodded. I should go before they arrive. My ship can now fly back to our main research vessel. She paused, then reached into a pocket of her suit. She pulled out what looked like a small silver leaf. This is for you. It's a communication device. When it glows purple, it means I'm back in orbit and sending a message. He-Jin took the leaf carefully. It felt warm in his hand. I'm going to recommend that Earth be made a special research site, Bomi said. Not just for studying your biology, but for learning from your way of life. Would you? She hesitated. Would you be willing to help teach other visitors like me? To show them what you showed me? That Earth's challenges make us stronger. He-Jin smiled. Sure. But next time, maybe we can start with something easier than a storm and landslide. But that was the best part, Bomi said, and He-Jin was sure she was making her version of a smile. It taught me more than years of safe observation ever could. They heard the rescue vehicles getting closer. Bomi touched her suit controls, and her ship responded. They could hear it lifting free from He-Jin's trailer outside. Thank you, He-Jin Kim, Bomi said formally. for saving my life, and for teaching me that progress isn't about escaping challenges. It's about learning from them. Thank you for reminding me that even ordinary nights can bring extraordinary adventures. Jin replied. Stay safe up there in space, but not too safe. Bomi nodded, understanding his meaning perfectly. Then she pressed another control, and her body began to glow with a soft purple light. In a flash, she vanished, transported back to her ship. Jin watched through the window as the silver spacecraft rose into the morning sky. It hovered for a moment, then shot upward and disappeared into the clouds. In his hand, the silver leaf began to glow purple. When the rescue workers found him a few minutes later, they were amazed to find him smiling despite his damaged truck and the dangerous night he had spent in the storm. But Jin just told them he had helped someone in trouble, and that sometimes the most challenging nights brought the most important lessons. In his pocket, the silver leaf continued to glow, carrying a simple message. Thank you for teaching me how to dance with chaos. Earth's storms will always be welcome in our studies now. After all, perfect bubbles are for those who have forgotten how to adapt and grow. Jin touched the leaf and looked up at the morning sky. The storm had cleared completely now, leaving everything fresh and new. Somewhere up there, he knew, Bomi was already planning how to teach her people what she had learned on this stormy night. That true strength comes not from avoiding challenges, but from learning to face them with courage and wisdom.